In the earlier part, we have discussed how the Naxalite movement is thinking to proceed, the modus operandi as we call it technically, the method to go into villages, the preparations made to organize the rural areas. Now, we are talking about how they are entering into the areas and organizing the people into anti-feudal struggles. Before talking about it, why we are studying anti-feudal struggles in Telangana? Because history is not a partial thing. Whether we like it or not, whether we accept it or not, whether we love it or not, whatever is happened in history, whatever happening in history should be studied. The causes, reasons, conditions, sequences, consequences, and the lessons to be learned from the society. This is a lesson for the polity, lesson for the governments, lesson for the society. So every movement teaches a specific lesson. That is why we are talking about the Naxalite movement. Though Naxalite movement is not a story of the past, Naxalite movement is the story of past, present. Even today, Naxalite movement has its roots deep in the society. The struggle in Telangana, you may not find the Naxalite movement struggles today, but the struggle is continuing somewhere else. Chhattisgarh, all these areas are inspired or a continuation of Telangana's Naxalite movement. Today, what we call Maoist movement in India is a continuity or its unbroken continuity of Telangana. The people who are leading the struggle or leading the Maoist movement in Chhattisgarh or many other parts of the country are from Telangana. Inspired by the Telangana movement, working in the Telangana movement and went there and started the movement as a continuity of Naxalbari. So, Naxalbari started in 1967, had a setback in 70s, 74 onwards there was a big setback, but once in 80s, by 77, the preparations and again going into the villages happened. Since then, though some of the parties which started at the time of Naxalbari are not there, the movement continued by some other parties. So finally today, even today, Naxalite politics or Naxalbari is of utmost importance for your social issues, for your political issues, for essay, and every time you get Naxalite issue as a topic to be discussed from your point of view. That is historical point of view or political point of view or impact of the society, impact on the society point of view. So that is why I am discussing analytically and aspects. Points you may get, see, points or data can be available anywhere, but the analysis is very important in your descriptive answer type. Unless and until you understand it conceptually, the points or the bits or the data cannot be, it cannot fit everywhere wherever you want. So understand the concept, understand the movement, as a story, then data will go and sit wherever it is required. So now coming to the places where the first struggles broke, anti-feudal struggles in Telangana broke out. When we talk about, broadly speaking, before going to the particular place, in Telangana, North Telangana is completely having a Naxalite movement background. Naxalite movement was spreading in entire North Telangana, start from Karimnagar, Adilabad, Warangal, Khammam, many parts, and the other part is Nizamabad, South Telangana, North Telangana in between. This Nizamabad, part of Nizamabad was under Naxalite movement. Come to South Telangana districts, Medak district, in the initial years itself, Medak district, there were efforts by Naxalite movement to organize. That is, Giraipalli was part of Naxalite movement. In the last class, we have discussed about Giraipalli martyrs. Students were killed in fake encounter in emergency period. So Giraipalli part of Medak district. After Giraipalli setback, there is a setback in Medak district movement but did not expand. But in the latter part also there was a half portion of this Medak district was under the influence of Naxalite movement, which is attached or contiguous to North Telangana. Then Nalgonda district is having a history of Naxalite movement starting from 1940s to 1946 to 51 Telangana struggle, plus even Naxalite movement continued in Nalgonda, half part. Then Mahbubnagar, last phase before the Naxalites are completely undergoing setback because of heavy repression, because of encounters, because of heavy losses for them. In North Telangana, in South Telangana, Mahbubnagar district, Nallamala forest was the last zone where Naxalites were having their activities. So these three districts. And Rangareddy, of course, it's urban. We don't have anything to talk about Naxalism. So Mahabubnagar, part of it. Medak, part of it. Erstwhile districts I am talking about. Nalgonda was part of it. Rangareddy is an exception. Of course, Hyderabad, leave Hyderabad, it is not a village, but it is a city. So as Hyderabad is an urban center Naxalite politics are the mass organizations who are practicing, who are propagating Naxalbari politics, and they are the source for the Naxalbari movement every time. In the country, wherever we find Naxalite movement, the source of student and youth or working class will come from the urban centers. So Hyderabad worked as like that. So this is the situation in Telangana about Naxalite movement. We are starting from 1970 and come 1973 period. In meantime, what was happening in Telangana was Jagityala, Sirsilla, these two areas are very important. In North Telangana, erstwhile Karimnagar district, two groups or two streams of Naxalbari politics. One is CPML stream, Charu Mazumdar supporters. The other is the people who are not accepting Charu Mazumdar stream or CPML stream, AP Communist Revolutionaries. So the AP Committee of Revolutionaries. So these people, both the people were starting their activity in North Telangana, in the rural villages of Karimnagar. In Jagityala, we have Nimapalli, Madunuru, like bigger areas. The beginning, the struggle was its beginning. The anti-feudal struggles, we have to talk about these villages when you are speaking about the rise of anti-feudal struggles in Telangana. When we say anti-feudal struggle, another angle I am going to tell you now. Having hundreds of acres, Binami, holding in the name of Binamis and everything, that is landlords. It is not constitutional, even after land sealing or these things. Even today you have many landlords. So they are having under Binamis. So land is a source for the livelihood. In one of the films recently, I have heard a beautiful statement. Bhumi, Kala film of Rajnikant. Dalits fighting for their land. Kala, that is Rajnikant's film, he says, land is life for us. Bhumi maku jivanam. Bhumi meeku adhikaram. Land is power for you. But land is life for us. So this is the concept of haves and have-nots. Haves means landlords. For them, having much bigger tracts of land is giving them more power. And for the people who are not having any property, that is life. Without that piece of land, they cannot live. So on whose side you should be there? That point many people asked during Naxalbari movement. Land sealing or land acts or any socialist principles which were envisaged in the constitution were not implemented. That is why today we have Naxalite movement. This aspect you have to remember. You can keep this aspect somewhere when you analyze the movement. So, Jagityala, at Nimapalli, Bhaskar Rao, a landlord, was there with 16,000 acres. Madunuru, Rajeshwar Rao was there, 500 acres. 26 lakhs were collected by Madunuru landlord Rajeshwar Rao in the name of fines. I talked about fines. In Panchayats, they used to collect. In Sirsilla region area, one Kodurupaka Rajavva, this story is very inspiring and it's a story of resistance. Kodurupaka Rajavva was a symbol of resistance. She was fighting the landlord known as Joginapalli Venkat Ramarao, and she was organizing the peasantry when this Naxalite movement is starting. Raitu Kuli Sangams, peasants were getting organized under the banner of Kula Sangams or the organizations. Rajava was one among them and she was organizing. So she has to be punished. Who? The landlord will punish her. How? The goons raped her before her husband. And goons raped. Still, this heinous act did not deter her determination. She continued her. She continued to organize. Hundreds of women getting organized into mass organization, that is Raitu Kuli Sangams or peasant organizations to fight feudalism happened. This is Kodurupaka Rajava story, you should remember. This is happening in the initial days of Naxalite movement in North Telangana, Karimnagar district. Lotunuru, Jagga Rao and Sagar Rao were the father and son duo who were utmost cruel to the poor peasantry. They were occupying lands, they were imposing illegal fines, and they were attacking the people. So Sangham, that is Sangam, whenever I am saying Sangam, understand that is the association. Sangam means it is the Raitu Kuli Sangam. It is the landless labor, agriculture laborers organization of whatever stream it is. So Sangams are resisting. And in one instance, what has happened? When Sangam is resisting the atrocities of the landlord, police also came in support. When people are there, automatically police will come, and police fired upon the people, and in that one Dalit died and 100 arrested, 200 people fled. On one side it is a landlord, on the other side it is the masses. Who is getting the justice now? See, I have talked about one principle known as repression begets revolt. If the governments could handle these things at the time, taking the side of the people or arresting or checking the powers of the landlords, definitely Naxalite movement could not have its base in the villages. But state or governments are completely supporting. Police is coming and firing upon the people. So as a result, a person dies. Then Jeetagallu. Jeetagallu means in Telangana agriculture labor. They went into strike. See, strike is a protest form by workers. But organized people can organize in a very easily. Organized workers can go on strike because they have some organization. They have some rules, set rules. But Jeetagallu are scattered in all the villages. But because of the Raituguli Sangams or because of the people who are organizing the villages, these people got organized and they went on strike. For example, Madhunuru, they went on strike in June 78. And this strike, they refused to work for the landlords, they refused to work for the goons, they refused to work for the anti-people, the people who are anti-people. So what is this? This is unity among the oppressed. And just at Madhunuru, another thing has happened. People went into forest with their bullock carts and got the firewood or the wood for themselves. Because till then, people were not allowed to go to forests and take. And the landlord and the state, both are completely repressing and they are not allowing the people to claim these rights. So people are fighting for it. In this entire aspect, two organizations we have to talk about. One is Radical Youth League. Already I talked about RSU, Radical Students Union. When they left their studies and came to villages as full-time workers for revolutionary party or revolutionary politics or Naxalbari politics, these people are RSU, are becoming RYL2. They are organizing youth in the village under the name of Radical Youth League. And they are organizing, in turn, these people are organizing Raitu Kuli Sangham to fight or revolt against Gadis, Doras, feudal codes and economic exploitation. So, what were the anti-feudal struggles? What is the nature of the anti-feudal struggles in villages? One is physical resistance, means you have to resist the advances, you have to resist the oppression of the landlord physically. If they are fighting, if they are saying, you will not accept, you will not heed to their demands or their dictates. If they are coming and fighting, you have to resist. Who will come on behalf of the landlords? Goons maintained by the landlords will come. You have a pitched battle or direct battle with them. So physical resistance. And second one is social boycott. Social boycott means in the earlier period, people were being boycotted by the Doras Panchayats or Gadi Panchayats or the landlords. Means people will be asked to leave the village or the village will be asked not to interact with that person, to punish him. Now the organization, that is Sangam, is imposing social boycott on the landlord. In the village, if landlord is not getting any support, no service is rendered to him or his family or his Gadi, where will he go? He has to leave the village and come to town. This has happened in many areas in Telangana. Many landlords shifted their base to towns like Medpalli, Jagityala, Korutla, all these village towns. Now landlords are coming out of the village and settling in towns, and there they are doing some businesses. They are starting businesses from this point of view because they can't do anything in the village. Interestingly, Naxalite movement has done some good for the feudal classes in Telangana too. We'll talk about it in the end. So, defiance and bringing the villages out of fear is the utmost important. See, till now you are living under the fear, reeling under the fear. Once fear is gone, you can fight with anyone. That is what we can see in the villages. So, this Jagityala Sirsila struggle spread to everywhere. Now in Karimnagar itself, you can see Peddapalli, Huzurabad, Medpalli, Karimnagar, all these areas spread. Villages like Kannala, Palem, Malyala, Julapalli, Gummalapur, Kukkalaguduru, Renapuram, all these areas, many villages, the list is so big. Tens and hundreds of villages in all the areas, surrounding areas are coming under the influence of Naxalite movement. That is anti-feudal movement. Raitanga Poratam, that is revolutionary peasant movement, Viplava Raitanga Poratam. So, anti-feudal struggles are very, very sharp. Once you are fighting for the livelihood, that livelihood struggle is not simple one. You have to clinch it, otherwise you cannot continue. Clinch it means you have to fight again and again. You have to fight further till you win, or you will be killed, because land is crucial in a village. So these struggles, for example, in Karimnagar the movement has spread. From Karimnagar, the districts, other districts too, caught the struggles from these areas nearby. Actually, districts are our boundaries. For revolutionary movement or for peasantry or for the villages, districts are no boundaries. Any contiguous area, it will spread. Like Adilabad, we have Laksitipeta, Serpuru, Chennuru, Bellampalli, all these talukas, now the movement is spreading. What are the forms? Again, they are taking up. New forms are also coming, like Tendu Patta agitation. Tendu leaf, the BD leaf which will be taken. That BD leaf agitation is one of the important thing. They used to get nominal money for 100 leaves. When you collect 100 leaves, they will be paying 5 paisa for a bundle, or 3 paisa for a bundle, or 6 paisa per a bundle. You are toiling the entire day and getting not even 5 rupees per day. Now, these People's War or Naxalite parties have taken up this struggle, Tendupatta struggle. And as I discussed earlier, wage hike struggles in the villages. All these things caught the people's attention, and people getting organized under this RYL or Raitu Kuli Sangam banner. In Warangal district, RSU students who are actually becoming very sharp and theoretically, ideologically well versed with the Marxism, Leninism and Mao thought or Maoism, they are going to villages in Warangal. In many areas in Warangal, we can see Warangal city, Hanmakonda, Warangal, Kajipet, this is 3 cities together. In the suburbs or nearby villages in and around Warangal, we can see the influence of Naxalite movement even today because of that. So, struggles in Warangal, the students and youth struggles, they went into villages, Warangal, Cheryala, Vardhanapeta, Narsampeta, Ghanpur, Jangam, all these areas, the struggles broke. So, land struggles of Gorrakunta, Paidipalli, Dharmaram, Mugilicharla, all these areas are now in the map of the revolutionary struggles, or peasant revolutionary struggles, or peasant struggles, whatever you want to call. So, next district, Nizamabad. In Nizamabad, the contiguous portion of this Karimnagar and Nizamabad, we can see. So, the land issues were taken, and anti-liquor barons, liquor mafia is so oppressive in the villages. They are just like goons. So, against liquor mafia, liquor barons, the struggle was on. For the welfare of BD workers, the demands are raised. So, all the sections who are in the lower rung of the society, very poor, are getting attention from this movement. So, as a result, Raitu Kuli Sangam was started, and before Raitu Kuli Sangam, this COC, Central Organizing Committee, I will be talking about this point in the end of this class. CPIML split and COC has formed. COC brought a document. They held a conference, Uttar Telangana, North Telangana conference, and they made a document known as Road to Revolution. This Road to Revolution, ROAD, Road to Revolution, is the blueprint for the continuation of struggles. Intensification of struggles means how to proceed further to intensify the revolutionary movement in Telangana. And this document is important because after this Road to Revolution, they have come to villages, spread in different villages, and then they shifted, they sent some forces to forest areas, and today's Chhattisgarh movement or part of Maharashtra's forest movement is because of this planning. So, RYL, Radical Youth League, played a major role in organizing the peasantry into Raitu Kuli Sangam's RCS. From 1977 onwards, immediately after lifting the ban on the meetings during emergency, immediately the public meetings sequence has begun. At Gollapalli, the first meeting, small area near Jagityala, RCS meeting was held with 3,000 people. 3,000 people coming into open against feudalism is a big success in those days. So this was the first meeting. Meanwhile, come November, same 1977, near Sirsilla, in two different villages, Poshetti and Lakshmi Rajam, two people were killed. These people were organizers in Karimnagar, Sirsilla region. So landlords, goons killed Poshetti, Lakshmi Rajam. Again, as I said, repression begets revolt. People who were getting organized under these leaders, they will definitely fight to continue or struggle to continue the movement which they have started. And again, a new wave is also coming in the village. So finally, culminating into Jagityala Jaitra Yatra, in our syllabus we mentioned about Jagityala Jaitra Yatra, happened on 9 September 1978. A huge procession and gathering of agriculture labor and peasants happened in Jagityala. Jaitra Yatra means a march, a victory march. Jaitra Yatra in English we should call it as victory march. Jagityala victory march. What is this victory march? First stage of our victory, first stage of this Naxalite movement victory is nothing but Jagityala people are gathering in the name of revolution, coming in procession and shouting slogans. So Jagityala Jaitra Yatra happening in September 1978, 35,000 people came to the town shouting the slogans, land to the tiller, down with feudalism, Bhuswamyam Nashinchali, lift police camps. In villages, there were police camps to suppress Naxalite movement. They are demanding lift police camps. Hail revolution, hail new democratic revolution, hail Naxalbari Srikakulam, and land to the tiller and agrarian revolution. Land to the tiller is part of the policy of agrarian revolution of Naxalites or Maoists. So all these slogans were shouted in the town, and famous or important mass organization leaders still since then. We can see Varavar Rao, a leader of Viplava Rachaital Sangam, Ganji Ramarao, then leader of this Raitu Kuli Sangam, Gaddar, a balladeer, Naradas Lakshman Rao, presently MLC, Allam Narayana, Media Academy chairman presently, and many mass leaders of those times. Those who were completely, these people were completely, some people are still in the movement and some people are out of the movement, and these people were the leaders of this Jagityala Jaitra Yatra on the stage. Spirit of this meeting means once you are shouting so many slogans, automatically what will happen? The people will get the spirit into them, those who are attending. Carry the spirit to their villages. And again the anti-feudal struggle, higher stage will come up. Higher unity will come up in the minds and in the village of, in the society of the oppressed. So automatically the organization is getting strengthened. New, more and more tens and hundreds of villages are getting inspired by the anti-feudal struggles of these areas. So thus, from 1978 Jagityala Jaitra Yatra, the movement shifted and went into different parts of the state, that is Telangana, into many areas. And talking about the tribal areas, Naxalite movement has addressed the tribal issues too. And we have a legacy of Ramji Gond, we have a legacy of Komram Bhim. And Naxalites were the people who went to tribal areas, got assimilated, completely declassed, and they became tribals among tribals. As a result, they are getting organized in Adilabad tribal regions, Asifabad regions, all these regions. So, in the process, one meeting at Indravalli was organized in 1980, 20th April 1980. Indravalli, to commemorate the to hail the martyrdom of tribal leaders or Komrambi, they constructed a martyrs column, Amarula Stupam. You can see on the screen that Amarula Stupam is constructed and people were asked to come. Small Stupam, not this one. Actually, the meeting was there. For that meeting, people were coming. So, when people gone tribals were coming to the meeting, police fired upon them. And in the firing, because they don't want to happen, they don't want to allow this meeting to happen. Once Gonds or tribals are into Naxalite fold, again it will become law and order problem for the police and state. So what has happened? They don't want to have this meeting. They fired upon the people who are coming to the meeting, in that 23 tribals killed. That is known as Indravelli firing. This is very important. Remember, this can be asked in your examination. A famous song, Indravelli Kondallo Dandu Buttindi Nestamarava by Jananatya Mandali, was coming in this background. Indravelli Kondallo Dandu Puttindi Nestamarava. It's a Naxalite song. Another important thing I want to talk about is, till now, Komram Bhim's story was not written by any historian or any literary person. The Naxalites who went to tribal areas, they collected the biography of Komram Bhim and brought the book. One Sahu, original name Shanigaram Venkateshwarlu, along with Allam Rajaya, wrote this book, Komram Bhim biography. So Naxalite movement has depicted the life of tribals in literature too. Then come to the coal mine workers. Coal mine workers, it's really 100 kilometers length. The belt is, coal belt is big. Bellampalli, Mandamarri, Ramakrishnapuram, Ellendu, Khammam, Warangal, Karimnagar, these three districts are spread with these coal mines. So this coal belt was organized by Singareni Karmika Samakhya, Sikasa, and 80,000 workers are there. So rural and coal belt is completely mixed. So these people, Naxalite movement, addressed the issues of coal belt also, like less wages, working conditions, and they organized the whole coal belt in onto one, with one voice. As a result, in 1981, a 56-day strike was held, and this strike was having its impact on the power production, electricity production in the country. This is about coal mine workers. So to counter Naxalite movement, state response was, they treated, at many times, they treated it as law and order problem than a socio-economic problem. You have to take this stand if you have to write correct approach. If it is law and order problem, you can just wage, kill, or do encounters. But if it is socio-economic problem, you can address to the root cause of the movement. That is what sociologists or economists or political scientists are talking about. So if you see, Channareddy declared it as disturbed areas in 1978 after Jagitiala Jaitra Yatra. Then NTR period, there were encounters, missings and kidnaps. And there were some liberal periods, 6 months liberal periods in between. But finally, in 2004, because of the efforts of many people like Putturu Venkateshwar Rao, S.R. Shankaran, K.G. Kannabiran, Professor Haragopal, Professor Ganta Chakrapani, and all these people, peace initiative, and finally the government held peace talks with People's War and Janashakti. And the talks are unfulfilled. That is not a fruitful talks, because the basic demand of the Naxalites was to distribute land to the landless. And government, after the first round of talks, they said we are going to take up the second round, but the second round never happened. Meanwhile, encounters and many repressive measures were unleashed on Naxalites, and Naxalites also shifted their base from Telangana. As a result, we don't have much talk about Naxalite movement in Telangana presently. But the report, which is known as Koneru Rangarao Committee report, came out after this meeting. This Koneru Rangarao Committee report first talked about, the first word itself, or the beginning part of the report itself is the unfinished agenda of the land reforms. That's what Naxalites are talking about. The unfinished agenda of land reforms, even after 6 decades or 7 decades of independence. And definitely you will have a huge revolutionary peasant movement because of this unfinished agenda. So, Koneru Rangarao report talks about unfinished agenda. So, to conclude with, we have seen the revolutionary struggle started in Naxalbari, taking up roots deep into the soil in Telangana, and anti-feudal struggles are happening. Then revolutionary spirit is growing, and people are taking up arms and fighting the state. So this is the situation. From the point of view of the state or constitution, it is illegal to take up arms. So these are the two contending parties. On one side it is state, on the other side it is Naxalite movement. So what we have to answer is, the basic thing is, it is a socio-economic reason which is giving birth to Naxalite movement. So that has to be addressed. It's not law and order movement. Then Naxalite parties, we have two streams. To sum up, CPML stream, that is 74 to 77, was under the name of CPML COC. 77 to 80, it was being called as AP State Committee because it was functioning as a simple state committee, not entire country. 80 onwards, it was renamed as CPML People's War. and 1997 it united with CPML Party Unity. Again the name was CPML People's War. And in 2004, unity with Maoist Communist Center MCC. These two, Party Unity and MCC, were functioning in Bihar, Jharkhand, and to some extent North Indian parts or Bengal. So with MCC they merged in 2004, and thus finally CPI Maoist formed. So today we have CPI Maoist as a Naxalite party or a Maoist party in that news regularly. And the other stream, which was known as AP Revolutionary Committee, those who did not subscribe to Charmazundar's views, were divided into different groups like CPML Vimochana, Janashakti, Pratigatana, Praja Pratigatana, New Democracy, UCCRML, or Communist Party of United States of India under Maroj Veeranna. Like that, this has happened. To conclude, we have discussed how it has born, how the beginnings are happening in Indian soil, then what is the situation today. So today we see Maoist party in the country working in different areas, taking up the agenda what they are thinking with armed struggle. So to conclude, to limit ourselves to our Telangana aspect, impact of Naxalite movement on Telangana. What was the impact? The first one is the feudal oppression was fought. Vetti, unpaid labor, less wages, feudal panchayats, caste oppression, atrocities of women, everything gone. Today, it is not the same pre-70 Telangana. You don't have this. Though some instances are happening in the villages, it is not the same feudal one. This might be something other, but not the same feudal system. So this is the first achievement. Second achievement is the rise of the political consciousness of the people who are not politically, what you call, they did not had political voice till then. They never had political voice. They had, or they got political consciousness, and their voice is being heard. That is the victory of Naxalite movement in Telangana. These people became the source for all the political parties in the raised the consciousness which rose in Telangana. Later, because Naxalite parties are not having any structure, political structure, this consciousness and the rise of political consciousness and political ambitions made people to enter into different political streams also. And many movements in Telangana today have the roots in Naxalite movement. Many identity movements, many caste movements, many partial struggles have the roots in Naxalite movement. That was the achievement of Naxalite movement. Then they have set the agenda for political parties. How? Because when Rajshekar Reddy goes to Telangana in 2004 before elections, he says Naxalites issue is a major one, I am going to resolve it. N.T. Ramarao, when he goes in 1983, he says Naxalites are the true patriots. And many political parties says Naxalite agenda is our agenda, but our path is different. We don't take up arms. We are through ballot paper. They are through bullet. So Naxalites' political agenda, what they have raised, the issues are still relevant. So this political statement they made through their armed struggle. They have set the agenda for the political parties who are fighting the elections. And lastly, the slogans, Bhumi kosam, Bhukti kosam, Ee nela Vimukti kosam, means for the land, for the livelihood, and for the liberation of this soil, or Jal Jangal Jameen in terms of tribals. These slogans are still alive, reverberating in the villages whenever the issues of rights of the oppressed are there. So Naxalite movement has achieved these things in Telangana soil.